"What do you want me to do for you?" Jesus asks Bartimaeus, son of Timaeus, a blind beggar. Bartimaeus had been sitting by the roadside, and when he heard Jesus of Nazareth was coming along, he causes a ruckus, shouting, "Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me." And he kept shouting, even when those around sternly ordered him to be quiet. Bartimaeus was insistent. "Son of David, have mercy on me." Just being in Jesus' presence is often not enough. Think of the woman who reached out to touch Jesus' cloak, friends who advocated for their friends, parents who beg on behalf of their children. Bartimaeus shouted, and Jesus instructs, "Call him here." And a healing story is transformed into a call story. Bartimaeus immediately responds to Jesus' call, throwing off his cloak to move quickly closer in to Jesus. And then Jesus' question comes, "What do you want me to do for you?" It's a question we all need to be asked from time to time, a question for us to ask ourselves, to ask of others. Cause Canada is an international development organization committed to working with the poorest people in the world. One of their programs in days gone by, in the time I was on the board, was a women's leadership program in rural villages of Sierra Leone in West Africa. The program gathered women in a village to discuss and discern what their community needed the most. They would kind of map out their village, identifying issues, and together they would decide on one project that Cause would fund. The projects often involved water, because having clean and accessible water is a cornerstone in community development. It matters for everything. But the women of this one village insisted on something else. The closest school was a good walk away, which was okay for the older children, but for the little ones, the sort of 5, 6, 7 years old, it was a long way, too long. And worse, one of those little ones had been bitten by a snake on their walk and died, just to go to school. And so the women were insistent. They needed a primary school in their own village. Now, the core values of Cause Canada included the belief that people themselves, no matter their poverty or their illiteracy or anything like that, particularly people who are surviving against all odds, they know what they need. It is not for white people or wealthy people or religious people, no matter how well-meaning, to decide for them. We settler types have not always been great at practicing this, assuming instead that we know best. In this case, the biggest problem was budgetary. Building a school, even a basic kind of one-room primary school, exceeded the budget, which the program directors explained patiently to the women, who continued to be insistent. Their top priority was keeping their little ones safe and close to home while also being able to attend school. And so the directors of that leadership program just figured it out. And I had the honor of being there for the ribbon cutting when that little school opened. How can I help? Dr. Max Goodwin asked the doctors of New Amsterdam Hospital at his first meeting with them on his first day as the new medical director, during the first episode of the cable TV series that premiered in the fall of 2018. How can I help? Dr. Goodwin asked, and it took a few minutes before someone was brave and audacious enough to offer an answer. New Amsterdam was a fictional public hospital in New York based on the real Bellevue Hospital, which is one of the oldest in the US. Chronically underfunded and overwhelmed, the staff of New Amsterdam tried their best to serve people while continually up against a broken medical system. The crazy new medical director, though, was undeterred. "Just tell me what you need," he told his staff that first day, "what your patients need, And I don't care if it's not covered. I don't care if the board said no. Let's get into some trouble. Let's be doctors again. And then for 5 seasons, the mantra and heart of the show was expressed with the question, how can I help? Today, Jesus asks it differently, but the heart of it remains the same. What do you want me to do for you? It's ironic, though I expect intentionally so, that it's the second time here in the 10th chapter of Mark's Gospel that Jesus asks this question. Immediately before the passage we heard this morning, James and John, the sons of Zebedee, came forward to Jesus and said to him, "Teacher, we want you to do for us whatever we ask of you." And Jesus asked them, "What is it you want me to do for you?" "Grant us," they replied, "to sit one at your right hand and one at your left in your glory." "You do not know what you are asking," Jesus says, and then goes on to speak about suffering and service and the distinction between how power is used in the world and the power of God. It becomes a lesson in discipleship, pointing to who Jesus is. For the Son of Man came, Jesus concludes, not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life a ransom for many. Today's passage begins at the very next scene, featuring the bold Bartimaeus shouting at the roadside, but not exactly politely asking, but for a very different desire than James and John. "What do you want me to do for you?" Jesus asks. What is your answer? What do you want? It is personal for each one of us. And there's a sense as a community of faith, a collective question. Moving with the Winds of God is our parish retreat coming up later next month, when we'll reflect on our present and look towards our future. I encourage you, like Sheila said earlier, to complete the questionnaire that's been recently sent out as a way of starting to reflect on your current participation of St. George's. And so together, we can reflect on the aggregate data that it offers us. And of course, I also encourage you to register for the retreat itself, coming up in the weekend of November 22nd to 24th. There we will discuss issues and opportunities for the future of St. George's. What do we want Jesus to do for us? In what ways do we seek healing? How is Jesus calling us? Not only did Bartimaeus immediately receive the healing he desired, he also received an affirmation of his faith. And more still, his faith was lived out immediately, even more deeply, as he becomes one of Jesus' followers. Bartimaeus received more than he asked for by the mercy and grace of God. Can we expect any less?